Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Tonight we're going to read Bhagavad-Gita as it is, chapter 8. Text 25, 26, 27. We'll do 27 because 25, 26 have really short purport. I read 23. 23. O best of Bharata, I shall now explain to you the different times at which passing away from this world, the yogi does or does not come back. Those who know the Supreme Brahman attain that Supreme by passing away from the world during the influence of this fiery God, in the light at an auspicious moment of the day, during the fortnight of the waxing moon, or during the 6 months when the sun travels in the north. 25. The mystic who passes away from this world during the smoke, the night, the fortnight of the waning moon, or 6 months when the sun passes to the south, reaches the moon planet, but again come back. In the third purport, in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Kapila Muni mentions those who are expert in fruitive activities and sacrificial methods on earth attain to the moon at death. Those elevated souls live on the moon for about 10,000 years. By demigod calculation, enjoy life by drinking samaras. They eventually return to earth. This means that on the moon, there are higher classes of living beings, though they may not be perceived by the gross senses. 26. According to Vedic opinion, there are 2 ways of passing from this world, one in light and one in darkness. One passes in light, he does not come back. One passes in darkness, he returns. Purport. The same description of departure and return is quoted by Acharya Baladeva Vijabhushan in Chandogya Upanishad 5.10, 3-5. Those who are fruitive laborers and philosophical speculators from time immemorial are constantly going and coming. Actually, they do not attain salvation, they do not surrender to Krishna. Now read 27. Naite Shviti Patajanam Yogi Murjanti Kashana Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Yoga Yukto Bhavardhuna. Word for word. Na, never. Ete, these two. Shriti, different path. Bharata, O son of Prita. Janam, even if he knows. Yogi, devotees of the Lord. Muyati, is bewildered. Kachana, any. Tasmat, therefore. Sarveshu, Kaleshu, always. Yukta Yuktaha, engage in Krishna consciousness. Bhava, just because. Arjuna, Arjuna. Purport. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Although devotees know these two paths, O Arjuna, they are never bewildered. Therefore, be always fixed in devotion. Krishna is here advising Arjuna that he should not be disturbed by different paths the soul may take when leaving the material world. A devotee of the Supreme Lord should not worry whether he will depart by arrangement or by accident. Devotees should be firmly established in Krishna consciousness and chant Hare Krishna. He should know that concern over either of these two paths is troublesome. The best way to be absorbed in Krishna consciousness is to be always dovetailed in his service. This will make one's path to the spiritual kingdom safe, certain, and direct. The yoga yukta is especially significant in this verse. One who is firm in yoga is constantly engaged in Krishna consciousness in all his activities. Rupa Goswami advises, Na shaktasya vishya tatyahar upa yujataha. One should be unattached to the material affairs and do everything in Krishna's service. This system is called Yukta Vairagya. One attains perfection. Therefore, the devotee is not disturbed by these descriptions because he knows that this path to the Supreme Abode is guaranteed by devotional service. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Arginam Turandasya Janajana Saksurimitam Jena Tasme Shri Gurve Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Danti Swapadantikam. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivastava Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We're coming to the end of this chapter, which is called Attaining the Supreme. The last verse says, a person who accepts the path of devotional service is not greedy for the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing sacrifices, undergoing austerities, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. Simply by performing devotional service, he attains all these. At the end, he reaches supreme eternal abode. So these verses 23 to 28 are talking about the supremacy of devotional service and in attaining by supremacy of devotional service in attaining the supreme. So it says yoga yuktaha, and engage in Krishna consciousness, and muyuti, never bewildered. So Arjuna should not be disturbed when he hears these descriptions. You see plate number 6. If you look in the book, you'll see plate number 6. It shows the yogi. It's being described in verse 24. It's a pretty scary looking picture, or unusual. Someone has to be very very troublesome. Plate number 6. It's a very troublesome process to sit in a forest in this yoga posture, give up eating Uh, this man doesn't have any flesh on his body, he has long hair, and even the foliage is growing on him. They've been there for a very long time, and he's sitting there waiting to the proper time to leave his body. And it appears that he left his body at the dark moon night, which means in the winter time, and went to the moon planet. That's what it says in this first verse, verse 25. That after one leaves the smoke, the night, which means when the sun passes in the south, it means it's cold in the north, and then he goes to the moon planet. And the scientists have everyone believing that they went to the moon. The Prabhupada says here that the moon, there are higher classes of living beings, though they may not be perceived by gross senses. So it's very clear that the moon is not a barren desert, because no one wants to live in a barren desert for 10,000 years. And they drink somaras, which gives them it's a life-giving beverage, which makes them very strong, where they can enjoy their senses to the highest extent. So there's of course, all the planets above the earth are heavenly planets, and to go to a heavenly planet is not possible by any mechanical means, because it's only due to your karma. If you have the karma, you can go to a different planet. If you don't have karma, you can't go there. So was all the moon landing. Prabhupada saw the moon landing in 1969 in England. They watched the whole thing, and then they turned off the television, and Prabhupada said they never went to the moon. Of course, it appeared they made a very good show. It was only a show, but the whole world was fooled. The whole world was bluffed, and thinking that America was very advanced in scientific technology, that they could go 96 million miles. It says the moon is 1,600,000 miles above the sun. So they say they went 96 million miles in 3 days and came back and brought some rocks and said the moon's just a barren desert. So even if we went to the moon, they didn't see the whole moon. They only saw one place. If I go to the desert, Rajasthani desert, then I can conclude that the whole country is a desert. That doesn't make sense. So in the moon planet, the higher beings, and Prabhupada says they cannot be perceived by gross senses. That means with our material senses on this planet, we can't see anything on any other planet. Even if they make the big telescopes and so much technology, with our imperfect senses, we can't possibly perceive these things that are more subtle. The body and demigods have subtle bodies. not like our body. They don't have any bad smell. They don't get old. They don't get diseased. But they do die. They don't live there forever. So when their time runs out, then they have to come back again to this Earth planet. So it's not much value in practicing this different kinds of yoga if you don't go back to Godhead. So if you pass in darkness and the smoke, then you go to the moon planet. And if you pass in the light, you do not come back. So these two paths, going and coming, light and darkness, are different ways of leaving the body. But this is not our concern, because it's not in our, we can't do this kind of yoga. Krishna already explained this in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita, that this kind of yoga cannot be done in this age. And Arjuna rejected it, said that practice yoga was more difficult than trying to control the wind with your arms. So you can't, said that he couldn't do it. That was 5,000 years ago. So what's the question of anybody else in this world doing it? It's age of Kali Yuga, Manda Sumanda Matayo. Everyone is has so many bad qualities. So just sit, do yoga. They simply making a show, but they don't really know what yoga is or how to perform yoga. To be a yogi, you have to go to the forest, sit, lay kusa grass and deer skin, sit there, be free from fear, be free from sex desire, then you can practice yoga. Now the Kumbh Mela is going on in Allahabad, and if you go there, you'll see so many different kinds of yogis, Nagababas, different kinds of people who are performing different kinds of austerities to attain moksha, or to get liberation, to go to the Brahma Yoti. Most of them worship Lord Shiva. But they're very austere, but they're not purifying their heart. By being austere, I'm not performing devotional service, their heart becomes more hard. If you want Krishna to sit in your heart, you have to make your heart soft. But by doing these artificial austerities, Nagababas, they don't wear any clothes, it's cold, freezing cold, and they put ashes all over their body, and smoke ganja, which keeps you warm. So they're very austere, but that austerity will not get them Krishna prema. They'll never go back to Godhead, and not get out of the cycle, repeated birth and death. Even if they do go to the Brahman effulgence, that also is not a permanent situation, because there's no service there, and they all run the risk of coming back into the material world and performing, opening hospitals, schools, doing philanthropic work. So, either case, these two ways of passing in the world, one in light and one in darkness, is not really the concern of the devotees. Because material world, padam padam vipadam natasam, there's danger at every step. Just as well, a couple weeks ago, a devotee was riding his motorcycle to the temple, and the temple car was pulling out, and he was on the road, and he ran into the car, and he left his body on the spot, right there in front of the temple, and the kirtan was, devotees came out of the house and did kirtan just before he left his body. So he couldn't wait for the sun to pass through the north or pass through the south or whatever. He couldn't wait for the light, the summer. It was winter time. But because he was in a favorable condition, he was hearing the holy name at the time of death, then it's possible that he went back to Godhead. But it wasn't his arrangement. It was the arrangement of providence. So we don't know when when death will come. Death can come at any moment. There are different cases. Maharaj Kutvanga was fighting with the demigods for many years. And so the demigods said, you should ask for a boon. So he said, I want to know when I'm going to die. And they told him, you are going to die in a very short time, within a few moments. So when he heard this, he went to the temple, went in the temple, surrendered to the lotus feet of the Lord. This is what we should do at the time of death. And also, on the battle of Kurukshetra, Dronacharya was the spiritual master of the Pandavas, but for some reason or another, he was fighting on the other side. So Dronacharya said that he would fight as long as he didn't hear any bad news, because he was invincible, no one could defeat him. So Krishna told Yudhisthira, Maharaj Yudhisthira, you tell Dronacharya that Ashwatthama is dead, which wasn't true at that time, and Maharaj Yudhisthira was known for his honesty, never told a lie in his life. So he hesitated. And when he hesitated, Bhima came there, and there was an elephant named Ashwatthama. With his dart weapon, he killed the elephant, Ashwatthama. So Maharaj Yudhisthira then said to Dronacharya, Ashwatthama is dead. Then he softly said, the elephant. So then Dronacharya went into samadhi and left his body. Although his body was still remaining on the battlefield, he was sitting on his chariot. They came and they cut off his head, thinking they'd gained victory over him. So he knew what to do at the time of death. And also, Maharaj Parikshit was given notice. He had offended a sage. He was given notice 7 days. He had 7 days to live. So he couldn't go to the forest and practice yoga. He couldn't wait for the time when the sun was in the north, the summertime. So, but he sat down on the bank of the Ganges, and Sukadeva Goswami came there and spoke the Srimad Bhagavatam to him. So he didn't eat or sleep for 7 days. He heard the Bhagavatam, 18,000 slokas. So at the time of death, when the snake bird came to bite him, he didn't feel any pain. He didn't know he had a body. He was out of the bodily conception of life. So there are different ways people leave their body. Some is by arrangement and some by accident, but this process is too troublesome. In this age, in the Satyuga, people could perform meditation, which is mentioned, this kind of meditation, but most of the time they weren't even successful at doing that. Vishwanatha Muni meditated for 60,000 years, but Indra got afraid that his post would be taken by this man who was becoming too powerful, so he sent Menaka, a society girl, to allure him, and he fell down from his meditation. So there's no surety, even if you do meditate for thousands of years and try to control your senses, there's no guarantee that you'll be successful. Because the senses, Krishna says that the living entity is struggling very hard with the 6 senses, which include the mind. So the mind is the center, focus point of all our problems. And if you can't control your mind, Prabhupada said, over and above chanting Hare Krishna, one must control his senses. So you have to control your mind. But at the time of death, you may not be able to think of Krishna. Kinku, etc., prayed that may the swan of my mind may I die at this time when my mind is healthy, so the swan of my mind may take shelter of lotus feet of Krishna. So the devotee doesn't know what we're going to be thinking about at the time of death. The time of death is very painful, and the mind goes in a spin. The throat is choked up with mucus, the lungs are choked up, though it may or may not be possible to chant at the time of death, or remember Krishna at the time of death. But if you've practiced devotional service your whole life, and were a serious devotee, then Krishna will remember you at the time of death. So, Prabhupada says here, absorption in Krishna consciousness saves certain and direct path. Nirbandhan Krishna Sambandha Yukta Vairagya Uchite. That we should utilize everything in the service of Krishna. And this will guarantee our going back to Godhead. But, so, we have to be careful that while performing devotional service, we don't commit offenses. There's 10 offenses to the holy name. And the first offense is to blaspheme devotee. If you blaspheme a devotee or offend a devotee, then your devotional service can be checked for not only this lifetime, for many lifetimes. When Srivas Thakur would have kirtan at Srivas Sangam, and 500 years ago in Mayapur, only the devotees were allowed to enter the kirtan. So one Gopal Chakravarti, or Gopal Chapala, was it? Anyway, one Gopal was an envious Brahmin, and he wanted to defame Srivas Thakur. So he put the items for worshipping Durga on the doorstep of Lord Srivas Thakur at night. and that consists of wine and different kinds of flowers and vermilion, different kinds of items that were used for worshiping goddess Durga. So in the morning when Srivas opened his door and saw all this paraphernalia there, he called all the neighbors and he said, "Just see, I'm a Shakti worshipper. I'm a demigod worshipper." Of course, Srivas had a reputation for being a pure Vaishnava. They didn't believe it. And they said, "Who has done this mischief?" So this Gopal Chapala, he was offended Srivas Thakur. He came down with leprosy. And leprosy is an infectious disease. So he was suffering greatly. He had to leave the city or the town and go outside, live in the forest, because leprosy is infectious or contagious. But Gopal Chapala, he knew that Lord Chaitanya was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when Lord Chaitanya was walking by him, he asked Lord Chaitanya, "Will you kindly relieve me of my suffering?" But Lord Chaitanya said, "No." He became angry. He said, "I'm not going to relieve you of your suffering. You're suffering now, and Yamaraj has 10 million different varieties of suffering awaiting you because you have offended my devotee." But he told Gopal Chapala that if you go to Srivas Thakur and pray for his mercy and beg for his forgiveness, then your leprosy will go away and you'll get relief from your suffering. So he did that. He surrendered to Srivas, begged for his forgiveness. He became a pure devotee and became a poet named Damodar. So in this way, path of devotional service is safe, certain, and direct, but we have to be careful that we don't commit offenses. And here it says that the person, the yogis, can determine the time of passing away. When Bhishma was father, wanted to marry the daughter of a fisherman, but her father said, "No, you can't marry my daughter because your son will become the next king." So Bhishma made a vow that I'll never get married. I'll stay brahmachari, stay single. So that Bhishma means terrible. It's a terrible vow for Kshatriya to make such a promise. But he made that promise, so his father gave him the benediction that you'll not leave your body unless you want to. In the time of Lord Ramachandra, he was such a great king that people didn't have to die untimely if they didn't want to. So Bhishma fell on the battlefield of Kurukshetra after 11 days. He was laying on a bed of arrows, very painful condition, but he didn't want to die at that time. So after the battle of Kurukshetra, Maharaj Yudhishthira was lamenting that he was responsible for killing 640 million people and creating a big disturbance in the world. And no one could console him or convince him otherwise. So they went to Bhishma Dev to ask him to instruct Maharaj Yudhishthira. But Bhishma Dev said to Krishna, he was feeling too much pain. So Krishna said, from this time on, you won't feel any pain. So they went to Bhishma and asked him to instruct Maharaj Yudhishthira on moral principles. At that time, Draupadi began to laugh. They asked her, "Why are you laughing?" She said, "Because when I was going to be disrobed in the assembly, you didn't say anything to Bhishma. No one spoke up that this was a bad thing except for Vidura." So Bhishma said, "At that time I was contaminated, but now all the blood has run out of my body, so I'm free from all contamination, so I can speak." So Bhishma spoke for very long, for 48 days, and then at the time when the time of light, when it's at the proper time, he stopped speaking and prepared himself to leave his body. So he surrendered to the lotus feet of Krishna. So this is the, we can't do this kind of thing, but devotees should perform devotional service. Yukta Vairagya, Nibbandhan Krishna Sambante, Yukta Vairagya Uchate. That means we utilize everything in the service of Krishna. They said to Srila Prabhupada, people were envious to see Srila Prabhupada riding in a big car. They say, "Well, you're supposed to be spiritual, so how come you're riding in a big car? That doesn't seem spiritual." But Prabhupada didn't really care what kind of car he had. But he said, "This car is nothing special. It's made of iron, steel, and glass. The spiritual man should get a gold car." But when Prabhupada was going to Africa, they sent a telegram. They told Prabhupada that they arranged for the best hotel for him and the best car in the country. And Prabhupada wrote back and said, "I'll stay in the temple and you can pick me up in the temple car." So Prabhupada wasn't concerned about these material things, but envious people couldn't understand that how something becomes spiritual when it's used in Krishna's service. Like the microphone is material, but when it's used for speaking Krishna Katha, it becomes spiritualized. So in this way, the devotee doesn't only accepts the bare necessities of life, and whatever he gets, he utilizes for the service of Krishna. A surrendered soul means one who sees everything favorable, accepts everything favorable for Krishna, rejects everything as unfavorable, knows that Krishna is the protector, knows that Krishna is the provider, knows expecting Krishna's mercy, and feels oneself meek and humble. Said Bhaktaram Jagannatapasam Sarvalokameshwaram Shinam Sarvabhutanam Gyatvam Mam Shanti Vichati. So this is the position of devotee. The devotee doesn't waste his time. One of the qualities of a pure devotee, he doesn't waste his time. He's not idle, but he spends his time in Krishna's service. Materialistic people are spending their time, wasting their time, trying to get as much sense gratification as possible. In this modern civilization, everyone thinks that sense gratification is the best, is the highest goal of life. To get as much sex life as you can get, is the perfection of life. And we hear about famous people, they even in public television, they brag about how much sex life they've had. But Daksha was a progenitor of mankind, and he got the darshan of the Lord after performing austerities. He offered prayers to the Lord, the Lord gave him benediction that he could have unlimited sex life, so he could populate the universes. But Prabhupada wrote in the purport that this was not actually a benediction, because sex life keeps one bound up in the material world. So materialistic people would think that was a wonderful benediction, but it's not. In our movement, we make a vow to chant 16 rounds the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, and follow 4 regular principles: no meeting, no gambling, no intoxication, no illicit sex. So even the householder, the brahmachari, there's no question of associating with women. Brahmacharis and sannyasis should be very careful not to associate with women. We only associate with women for important business and preaching, not otherwise. We don't, there's no free mingling in our movement. But they go out and preach. Sometimes they preach to women, but only for the purpose of giving them a book on Krishna consciousness, or making them Krishna conscious, not otherwise. And the story, the Haridas, Junior Haridas, had gone to beg some rice from Janavi Devi for Mahaprabhu. And when Mahaprabhu was taking prasadam, he asked who has brought this rice. And they said, Haridas, it's Junior Haridas. So he told Junior Haridas, tell Junior Haridas that he should not come see me anymore. So those were shocked because they didn't know, couldn't understand what his offense was, because he had begged some rice from a 70-year-old lady. But in the purport, in the Bhagavad-Gita, in the 16th chapter, Prabhupada says that he also looked lustfully at a young girl. That was his offense. The sannyasi should not even look lustfully at women. And Mahaprabhu said, when they asked Mahaprabhu to forgive him, Mahaprabhu said, I don't want to talk about it. And the devotees stopped thinking about women, even in their dreams. So it's very dangerous, and we have to be very careful. Says Lord Rishabdev said, one should not sit on the same seat with his daughter, sister, or mother, because even the mind of an intelligent person can be distracted. So in this way, a devotee uses everything in Krishna's service, and he doesn't waste his time, 24 hours a day. Srila Prabhupada was an ideal example of how to utilize his time. He traveled all the world 14 times in 12 years. He had the same program wherever he went. He would take rest at 10 o'clock at night and get up at 12 o'clock, chant japa for some time. Then he would translate Srimad Bhagavatam for some time. Then we'd go on morning walk until 7 o'clock. He'd come back to the temple, greet the deities, give Bhagavatam class. Then after Bhagavatam class, he would take some prasadam, and he would meet people. Then he would take his massage. Then he would take his lunch prasadam. Then we'd take rest for a couple hours in the afternoon. And Prabhupada was going to take rest. One day he said, no, I'm going to waste my time, because sleeping is the mother of ignorance. So then every day he had the same program, no matter where he went, no matter how long it would take to get there. He never heard of jet lag. There was nothing interfered with his program. Continuously, 24 hours a day, engaged in the service of the Lord. So the 6 Goswamis, Ajahara, Parasascha, they conquered over their senses. They gave up eating and sleeping. They didn't sleep more than an hour or 2 hours a day. Were fully engaged and merged in the mood of the gopis and love of Krishna. So they also knew how to utilize their time 24 hours a day. So we should also see that we don't waste our time. We can't sit like Haridas Thakur, which chanted 300,000 names a day, day and night. He didn't take any prasadam until he finished his chanting. But when he got old, someone brought him Mahaprasadam, and he said, I'm fasting today. I'm sick. But because Mahaprasadam should not be neglected, he honored us. But they asked him, Mahaprabhu came to Haridas Thakur and said, what is your disease? He said, my disease is I can't finish my rounds. But Mahaprabhu said, now you're an old man, you can reduce the number of rounds that you're chanting. But he chanted 24 hours a day, 300,000 names every single day, and he utilized his time in Krishna's service. So especially in Vrindavan, we shouldn't waste our time on the internet, waste our time on the cell phone, waste our time talking pajalpa or hearing mundane things. We should only utilize. Vrindavan is meant for retirement, although they don't know that. People come from outside Vrindavan, they don't know the 10 offenses to Holy Dham is to do business in the Holy Dham. So they constructed all these high-rise buildings and promising people you can have a comfortable spiritual life. So they build these high-rise buildings with swimming pools and weight rooms and all this nonsense things that people don't use anyhow, and just to lure people and to make a lot of money. But Vrindavan's only meant for bhajan. The Prabhupada constructed this Krishna Balaram temple and told all the life members, anyone who's retired from their family life should come and live in Vrindavan and do bhajan, which means chant, follow the 9 processes of devotional service, beginning with hearing, chanting, and remembering, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. Follow the 9 processes of devotional service. This will make one's life successful. So we should understand that these 2 paths are not for us, they're not for Arjuna. It's just for our understanding that you can, either way, if you leave your body in at the wrong time, you'll stay in the material world. If you leave your body at the right time, you'll go back to Godhead. But for a devotee, there is no right time or wrong time. For practicing Krishna consciousness, the Prabhupada said, if his disciples chanted 16 rounds, follow the 4 regular principles for their whole life, he guarantees, say, I have the back door, I have the key to the back door, I will take you back to Godhead. I just hold on to my dhoti. So the disciples of Srila Prabhupada should be very strict to follow Prabhupada's instructions, and the grand disciples are very strict to also follow the earned guru's instructions. In this way, they'll be a good chance that will not have to take birth again at the end of this life. So I'm going to stop there. Time is up. Any questions? Any comments from the radio land? Yes, here's a comment. What was that?
I say you cite Shabadi.
Yeah.
And I'm also revising the sloka also.
Yeah.
A father who cannot liberate his child should not be called a father.
So what's your question?
The question is reflecting what you mentioned, that a father should not sit in a sense, wrong with his daughter.
No, but the father's duty is to deliver his dependents. But the warning is there that the senses can be agitated if you're sitting too close to a woman, whether it be your daughter, mother, or sister, but not your wife. So that doesn't mean that they're not going to they're not doing their responsibility. They still have a responsibility to take their descendants back to Godhead. It's not neglecting their responsibility. It's just a warning. Two different verses, not connected. It's a warning for everyone that they should be careful about associating with women. Even Lord Shiva, we're reading about Mohini Murti. He wanted darshan of Mohini Murti. So he got the darshan of Mohini Murti, and he became agitated and chased after Mohini Murti, even in the presence of his wife, Durga Devi. It's just to show that even Lord Shiva can be allured by the illusory energy. That body of a woman is the illusory energy. Anyone can be allured at any time. But he was allured by Yoga Maya, not Mahamaya. But if we're not careful, we can be allured by Mahamaya, not Yoga Maya. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Bhagavad-Gita ki jai.